Podcast World, Cabin Studios. We are back for season 4. This is Caribbean Power Lunch, where we feature Black-owned businesses. I am your host, Kevin Valley, and today we are talking about finding your purpose. And this is not that whole woo-woo, believe, achieve, and dream. This is some practical tips from somebody who has not only lives it, but teaches it. Today we are talking to a lawyer, professional development consultant, and travel vlogger, Miss Shelly-Ann Gajadhar. Shelly, how are you doing today?
I'm amazing. Thank you.
Amazing.
Yes, amazing, as always.
Well, as always. Wow. So you came down here from the UK. You live in the UK now.
Yes.
Originally from Trinidad.
Yes.
But this is probably like what, your 5th, 6th media thing?
Since I've been home for this holiday, probably my 5th. Yes.
So this is what, work? Are you on vacation or are you on work or what?
I'm on purpose.
You want? I love it. I love it. So Shelly, what I want to start this off with, right? So I want to look back at, say, the 10, 11-year-old Shelly, getting ready to write that SE exam or, well, common entrance nowadays, getting ready to decide, okay, what secondary school they want to go to and everything. Where did you want your life to go at that time?
I wanted to be an attorney. I knew hands down that I wanted to be an attorney. I watched too many Law and Order episodes to not be inspired or motivated to be one. And I just had this vision that I was going to be a successful attorney, successful in the courtroom, successful outside of the courtroom. And it was just about doing well in school. I enjoyed going to school, actually. As an only child and not having brothers or sisters, school was my outlet, my playground, and achieving academic merit felt it was like a reward for me in some sense. Gave me a push, a driver. Yeah. Okay,
so your enjoyment of school, was this the activities, the friendships, or is it really just about, hey, what, I'm going to come here, I'm going to come first and test, I'm going to beat everybody?
No, it was about the engagement with other students, being able to just run around with people and play tag and come back in class sweaty. I didn't have that when I was home because I didn't have, a brother or sister to do that with. So for me, the engagement and the students is what made school exciting. And then, of course, the competitive side of it when tests came around, who got their red star, their blue star. So I felt that it was a place for all-round development and mistakes.
So interesting that you, from a very young age, decided where you wanted to go and you were able to end up in that career. So how did you prepare for this, like all through your secondary school life? Like you would have picked your subjects and all these things? Yeah,
so I was very focused on wanting to become a lawyer and doing well to get there. Right? I come from a very simple and humble family background. It's just my mom and my dad and myself. Very small family and humble beginnings. So I knew that in order for me to enjoy the successes that my mom told me I deserved from since I was a kid, I had to work for it and work for it in school and, make my mom proud. And I started realizing that the more that I focused on school and just excelling is the more that opportunity opened for me. So going to do my A-levels at St. Francois, which was a school that I wanted to get into, getting a scholarship then to do law school, because at that time they had GATE. So I was fortunate. And again, because I came from humble beginnings, my family didn't have that type of money to send me to school. So I knew I had to work for it and it was not going to come easily. And I knew that from a very young age. Yeah.
Okay, so you get to law school.
Yes.
You get that law degree.
Yes.
And you always want to be a criminal lawyer?
Yes, criminal lawyer. And why? Because I've been born and raised in Carenage. Carenage. So for me, being resident of Carenage came with a lot of benefits because there was always kids to play with. We have a recreational field right down the road from us. So I had the opportunity to engage with children from all walks of life. But at the same time, the reality of living in Carenage is that almost every night you're hearing a gunshot. Yeah.
Okay, so you were living in a kind of depressed area in Carnage?
Well, not depressed. So I was in the residential side, and the street next to me was depressed. So it's very easy for them to come over to our side, and the recreational playfield, you saw not the residential kids going there, but the children from the depressed areas going there. And my mom was very much friends with those people and encouraged me to engage with them and stuff. But part of the narrative of growing up was hearing gunshots, seeing people losing their lives. And I just felt that I wanted to do something about that. So criminal prosecution was that choice for me.
So is it that you want to lock up some of your wrongdoing neighbors?
And not my neighbors, because hopefully my neighbors won't engage in that. But I wanted to just bring a level of order to the disorder that I saw when I was growing up.
Okay. So you're practicing law as a state attorney.
Yes.
You're prosecuting some of the nation's most dangerous criminals.
Yes.
What was that?
One hell of a ride. It was one hell of a ride, and it was the best professional time of my life as well as the worst. But I felt so in control when I first got into the profession. I felt that there was so much promise for me, so much opportunity, and the foundation was laid for me to make my name known in the legal fraternity. And I had every intention of doing that. I used to sit down in the public gallery and look at the best of the best, you know, the senior counsels when they address the court and the jury. And I was just so inspired by them. And a big part of me having this desire to do my best was looking at them and seeing how convincing, persuasive, and unafraid they were. And that's all that I hoped for myself when I got into the profession. So it wasn't just about, yes, I'm an attorney. It was about making a difference. And when someone says, the prosecutor, Shelly-Ann Gajadhar, they know what to expect. You know, when I walked into the courtroom, they should know that you're going to be up for a tough challenge from her.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But how was that courtroom experience though? So when you have all this you have the judge, you have the jury there, you have this accused, looking you in the eye, and you're prosecuting, right? So you literally there trying to get people put in jail.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
how is it from
legally.
they and their family looking at you, young lady, trying to put their family member in jail for a crime he or she allegedly committed?
That was a tough aspect of the job. And that is something that law school, no amount of mentorship, no amount of internships could teach you. The level of assertiveness and fearlessness that you need to have when you walk into the courtroom, because everyone is looking at you. And you may think that people are not looking, but they absolutely are every single step that you make, because they look at criminal prosecutors as ministers of justice. So you must basically be a stellar example of what justice should look like in a society. So it not only must be done, but it must be seen to be done. So just the way that you present yourself in court. And that pressure I felt was one of the things I struggled with, because I'm young. At that time I was 24. I consider myself to be good looking.
Sure.
So young, good looking, and very smart and unafraid.
And very humble.
Very humble as well. Yes. And I worked particularly with law enforcement officials. But when you go to courts and you prosecute a murder is usually, these days, it's not just one person that is brought before the court for murder. Sometimes you have 5 and 6 people based on the aiding and abetting or the conspiracy to murder type situations. So sometimes when I walk into court, I would not even make eye contact with the family members. I've had people heckle me walking out of court. I've had people say things to me while I'm walking out of court. I felt followed a couple of times. And it just became a very volatile place to be. And that's what, I don't know if law school is teaching this now, but, you know, people, I mean, we had witnesses actually get killed outside the courtroom. As soon as they finish, give their testimony and they walk outside, that's it. And we have to face that as prosecutors. So it came a time where I was not handling that aspect of the profession well. And that is what really was a struggle for me.
Okay. So in this career, you would have had mentors, right?
Yes.
So from what I understand, in May 2014, one of our senior counsels in the country, one of the senior people in the legal fraternity in the country, was gunned down in her vehicle just shortly after midnight, maybe 2 minutes away from her home in Port of Spain. All right. So how did that affect you as a young attorney coming up, aggressive prosecutor, a young criminal attorney? How did that affect you? Were you prepared for that?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because when you work for the criminal justice system, you hope that the system will work for you and the system will protect you, and that you can go home and sleep well at night because you've left your job at your job. But the way that things work in our criminal justice system, it is very warped in the sense that your job follows you home, and sometimes in a literal sense, which was seen in her circumstance. When that happened, I was extremely shocked, and it was catastrophic for me as a professional, but also personally. What many people didn't know was that I looked up to Dana. She was everything to me as a criminal prosecutor. I really thought that she embodied the fearlessness and the fairness that a criminal prosecutor should possess. And to see her dedicate her life to the profession, she was also the president of the criminal bar, and to see her life being taken away in such a brutal way really shook me. I also worked with her in a professional capacity on 2 high-profile matters, which lasted like 6 to 8 months. And during that time working with her, she taught me a lot about the garnering of evidence, presenting, the ethics of the profession. So that in itself took all of what I was standing on away from me. And I felt that it was no longer a profession that I wanted to be a part of. And a big, big reason for that was the response of the judicial system when it happened. They didn't know how to deal with it. No one knew what to say. Our department didn't know what to say to us. No counseling was offered in that space of time. And it was a time where the leaders didn't know how to lead.
So how would you prefer that they would have handled it?
An emergency meeting, for a start. Would have been
They didn't have
nice.
an emergency meeting?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Business as usual?
Yes.
Wow.
So no emergency meeting, and actually the staff had to come together to have an emergency meeting without some of the leaders who should be present there. And then the slow progress of finding persons accountable for the crime. And then, the stories that you hear about not having security, criminal prosecutors not having security. At that time, I was 27. And I looked at how she faced her demise, and I felt that this no longer was the profession I wanted to be in. So I made the decision to leave it.
Wow. So, this is tragic on so many counts. Not only is it tragic on that lady's life, but it's tragic in the sense that, okay, so you're switching your career, but this is a dream. This is what you thought was your purpose ever since you were a child. So it's like the death of a family member.
Absolutely.
It's like the death of a part of you.
Yes. And I felt as though, when that happened, I felt as though the criminal justice system owed me something. Trinidad became such an unkind place. I was upset with the world, basically. I couldn't fathom it, could not understand it. I could not find reasoning in it. And I was just angry and so hurt, so empty, because it wasn't just one life that was affected. It was so many others that were affected. And it wasn't just about the death, but it was about the signal of what that death meant for our judicial system. And it's so much deeper than what really happened on the surface.
It was like a wake-up call for so many people.
Yes.
So from there, you decide, okay, law is not for me. So what you said, law is what?
Well, law will and always is going to be for me. I think once a lawyer, always a lawyer. Prosecution, I decided to leave. The criminal bar is what I decided to remove myself from, because I felt that I was working in a system that was no longer working for the country, no longer working for the victims, and certainly not working for the law enforcement officials.
Okay, so how did you decide on what you're going to do next?
Yes.
Now let's say, okay, forget this law thing. I am not out here trying to put myself in danger anymore. It's not worth it. The system doesn't have my back. So how do you decide, okay, these are the steps I'm going to take to make my next move? What did you do next?
Right. So a big part of getting into criminal prosecution was me always wanting to make change within Trinidad and Tobago. I love my country. I love my people. And I believe in our growth and our destiny of success. I believe that we are such a resilient nation. So that was one of the biggest reasons I got into criminal prosecution. So when I decided to leave, I wanted to still do something that would empower me to make that same change. And I realized that as a prosecutor, I was at the bottom of the pole, the pecking order, and it was going to be difficult for me to make change. Having a case won is fine, but the type of change I wanted to make, on the ground, I knew that I had to take a different avenue, a different route. So when I resigned, I said, okay, well, Shelly, if it's one thing, you are very good at research and you have an interest in business. So now is the time for you to do something that challenges you. Do something that challenges you. You want to find yourself and you want to figure out what is your next step. Let's go into unfamiliar waters. And actually I needed time as well, because I was ready to just leave Trinidad for a bit. Trinidad couldn't heal me. It couldn't say sorry to me. So I decided to take my savings and I journeyed to Edinburgh, where I did my master's in international business and emerging markets.
This
Scotland.
is in London. Scotland?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know anyone there, but I went.
Nice. Okay. Tell me about what you studied there and what was your master's thesis on and everything.
Right. So when I went to Scotland, I said, education is an amazing vehicle for opening doors. And I felt that it was not going to be a waste. So the best way to career transition would be through education. I didn't have the experience in the corporate world. I didn't have the experience as an entrepreneur. All I've had is experience as a criminal prosecutor. So how do I redefine myself? Well, one of the best ways, education. So went to Edinburgh and I used that time to just become a sponge. I knew that I was in a room full of persons that had a straight career trajectory that was unblemished. I mean, our classroom had 50 nationalities, different nationalities. I was the only Caribbean person in the room. And it was my opportunity to learn and to learn from them and to heal in the process, because I realized that I needed a new narrative from what was given to me in the 27 years of being a Trinidadian. So I engaged in so many different activities. I partnered with some of my friends and colleagues. I created a business while I was there, a sustainable startup called One Memoir with a German business partner of mine. And I traveled by myself because it was a journey of finding myself.
You ended up buying out that German business partner?
Yes, I did.
What happened?
I was ready for it to be Shelly's brand.
So you just said, bye-bye, Austin Cider.
I was ready for it. No, well, the thing is we were, and that is entrepreneurship in itself, especially when you get involved with business partners. No two flowers bloom at the same time. And my flower was blooming in one particular direction and his own was blooming in another place. And it's about finding that mature stance where you can say, I think it's time for us to go our separate ways. And we did, and it was not acrimonious. We did so very happily and, with the best of luck to each other. He is now teaching and I am now entrepreneuring.
But you're also teaching.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
You did a lot of travel, and I found this travel really interesting. I mean, I was looking at your travel vlogs. I looked at the video you're doing in Santorini, Greece. And I swear, Shelly, I paused the video. I opened a new tab. I went to Expedia and I said, how much you go to Santorini, Greece right now? But I want to go to Santorini, Greece. Yes. Santorini, Greece looks beautiful.
It is very beautiful. I decided to travel because I realized that at the time, what happened to me, home felt so big. It felt so big to me. And it left such a gaping, rotting hole inside of me. And, you know, I can speak about this now because this is 4 years later. It took me 4 years to heal myself. And for anybody that's listening, please be patient with yourself if you're going through this because it takes time.
Will you say you're healed now?
Yes. Not fully.
How do you know that you're healed?
Because I can talk about it. I can talk about it bravely. I don't know you that well, but there is a level of confidence and peace when I speak about it. You know, before I would break down and I'd cry and I'm just not ready. But I've found peace with it and we'll get to that. But in terms of the travel,
yes.
In terms of the travel, what travel helped with is that, you know, as I said, I felt like what happened to me was so big. But when I went to these places, I realized how small I was, how big the world is, and how small my problems were. And that there were so many other people going through something and still enjoying the gift of life.
So would you say this travel helped you discover your purpose?
Yes, it did. It helped me discover myself, which I felt people took from me. I was actually robbed of myself. That's how I felt.
Wow.
And I felt that the travel helped me find myself. And then in finding myself, I found my purpose.
Okay, so we talk about finding our purpose. And
yes,
you did a video where you had 4 tips for finding your purpose, right? Mm-hmm. And this is in tandem with what you do at Alphastute, correct?
Yes.
So Alphastute is a professional development consultancy and career consultancy and all that. So we'll get back to Alphastute, right? But I want to get into these 4 tips for finding your purpose. I find them very interesting. So the first one was having your alone time.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yes.
So just walk us through this.
Right. I think a big part of us saying that we don't know what our purpose is lies in the fact that we are distracted by the mind. Now, I believe that the mind is heavily influenced by society and society's opinions, the peer pressure or family pressure, and the pressure to be something, you know, to be something that they say you should be. But in alone time, it is just you, silence, and all of your flaws. And you find that people who can't sit with themselves are the persons that suffer from, I don't know what my purpose is. And why? Is because they feed off of other person's energy and other person's opinions and validation. And there is something very deep that they might be battling with, but they're too afraid to confront it in personal time. So that when you sit with yourself, it's almost too much to bear. You can't sit with yourself. You don't want to listen. You don't want to hear your thoughts because your thoughts scare you. So you run away. And when I sat with myself, oh my gosh, I broke down so many times. I cried so many times because I had to confront it. I wasn't distracted. I had to confront my pain. And I started realizing, wow, you are a broken girl. You are really broken. And in that alone time, I realized that I felt no one else could understand what I was going through, but I understand what I'm feeling. I understand where my confusion is. And guess what? I can heal myself.
Okay. So you talk about having a prayer journal and a success journal and adults coloring book.
Yes.
And all of these things. So how did that help in the healing process?
Right. Because, and it comes back to the fact that we need to be distracted, right? When you're alone, there's no one else there. And I felt that I needed an outlet. I needed somewhere to put these thoughts, these words, all the things I wanted to say. I needed somewhere to pour everything that was overflowing out of me in that time. And I didn't want to pick up the phone and call anybody because I had trust issues. And I wanted to talk to God, and I was talking to him, but I wanted to feel like I was doing something as well, and I could see it. So I started to write, and I started to just write and write all of the things that I was feeling. And I got the coloring book because, again, that was a way of calming the mind and just putting the energy, whatever distractions I was feeling or unsettling, I would put that energy into just coloring and calming myself. And I think that the mind is not a safe space. You know, a lot of times you're just sitting there and you're thinking, and we're thinking negative thoughts. Sometimes we think positive, and there's not an outlet for those negative thoughts to be released. So it's just sitting in there in your mind. And my way of releasing it out of my body and into the universe was through writing, because I felt that the more that I kept it inside of me is the more that it rotted me.
So the important thing is to get it out, however you get it out. I mean, even if you don't like to write, let's say you record. Or
exactly.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So the second tip, you talk about feeding your appetite for knowledge. And I especially love this because it was like literally a year ago I just said, you know what, I'm going to immerse myself in podcasts. I don't like reading. I don't like reading books. I have books sitting by my bedside, you know, because I read for work.
Exactly.
And I'm tired of reading. Right? I read for work. I read for all my exams and stuff. I'm tired of reading. So I like to listen to a bunch of podcasts, but progressive podcasts, right? So how did you go about feeding your appetite for knowledge? How would you advise people to go about feeding that appetite for knowledge as part of their purpose discovery? Right.
And I'm not the type of person to say, well, buy these books and read it. These self-help books are going to help you, right? Because the content of these self-help books are a bit of a difficult digest for somebody who is not acquainted with the concepts and the philosophies and the way of thinking that the self-help books advocate. My suggestion would be to put yourself in unfamiliar spaces, right? Just be open to learning and receiving people. And I'll give you an example. So part of me learning new things was through travel. So I actually went on a trip by myself to Berlin.
Okay.
And I just decided I wanted to see a bit of art, and I wanted to see a bit of underground, and I just wanted to do it on my own and go in a country that I didn't speak their language, but I could do it. You know, I could make it. And in that time, I just let myself be in that space. And in letting myself be, if somebody came to me and, you know, they looked at me and smiled, I smiled back at them. And then they came and they had a conversation with me. And I never felt like, oh my God, this person has an agenda. I shouldn't be talking to strangers, because we like to tell young kids, don't talk to strangers, right? And sometimes we grew up thinking that, well, I don't know him or her, I shouldn't speak to them. But I just started to engage in conversation, and I just realized that life is so simple. And all of us, regardless of background, regardless of color of skin, regardless of the situation, we all want the same things: love, happiness, you know? And these are people that don't speak my language, grew up in a very different way from me, but they want the same things. And it was that identity and that commonality is what made me realize that I just need to learn more from people. Because I believe that people teach us.
Listen, one of the most amazing things about traveling is the people you meet. Just sitting down by one of those sidewalk cafes or whatever it is, and you just talk to a stranger. Even when a stranger approaches you in a club or at a bar or whatever it is, and you just start talking to them. You just start hearing about. But life is just a whole different world than you could have ever fathomed on your own. Yeah, it really just expands your mind. It's like, whoa. This world has so many more possibilities than what I'm doing right now.
Yes. You know? Another great way as well is, if you don't like to read, I am big on podcasts.
Are you really sure?
And this is not a plug, but it's true. I'm big on podcasts because I just think that, you know, in a morning we tend to play music and stuff. Why not just play something that can water the mind and the spirit? So I like to listen to sometimes Oprah's podcast, or I would listen to a podcast that might be spiritual in nature, or just a podcast that is related to being an entrepreneur. You know,
like a Caribbean entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. You know, like Caribbean Power Lunch. But yes, you know, just starting to expose myself with unfamiliar terrain, because in finding yourself, you of course are shedding, you know, you're shedding the old you in some senses.
Yes.
So you have to be open to putting yourself in unfamiliar spaces to find the new and improved you.
And it's just a nice, smooth transformation.
Absolutely not. No.
Kevin, you are wrong.
You are wrong. It was not smooth at all. And to this day, it isn't. And I share that with my social media following, that it is still a work in progress. And every day I choose me. You know, I get up every morning and I decide to choose me. And that is what has made it easy. The day that you decide to choose yourself and to choose your happiness.
You talk about in your tips, you talk about seeing the clues.
Yes.
Just being observer, keeping your eyes open and seeing the clues.
Yes.
Look at your interactions you have with people and everything.
Yeah. We're exposed to opportunity every single day. Every day, right?
Right.
The only reason why we don't see it is because we're not looking for it. You know, and if we are looking for it, we're looking for it with a clouded lens, because we want it to look like what we think it should look like. And seeing the clues, I talked about seeing the clues, and it's related to understanding that everything doesn't happen by mistake. You know, I don't believe in, oh, well, it's just a coincidence. Absolutely not. It's meant to happen, and it is written. Why? Because all of us have a unique life path. Unique. Your life path is so unique, it cannot be mimicked, copied, transferred to someone else. And every single thing that comes into your life is very purposeful. The question is, how are you converting that experience into a benefit for your life path? Because a lot of times people hold the bad things and become a victim of it. But it's not a victim. It's not to victimize yourself, but it is actually a stepping stone. So it's looking at life with a different lens. And I had to do that because for a long time, since the 2014 tragedy, I felt like somebody owed me something. You know, I felt slightly victimized. And it was for me to stop seeing myself as that and start seeing myself as a conqueror of my own life. And I was ready to take control of what I felt people took from me and starting to give people a chance again.
You know, it's funny, Shelly. So I did so much research on you.
Yes.
To prepare for this conversation. Because like you said, we don't know each other that well. And I never once in any podcast you did, any interview you did, heard you talk about this incident to this magnitude or at all.
Right. I've only recently started to talk about it actually on this trip, right? Because I was the featured speaker for a Boss Babe event, you know, an empowerment workshop with some ladies. And
shout out to Jenna.
Yes. Janelle. Yes. She's actually, I think it's Jenna Neves actually.
Jenna Neves, yes.
Jenna Neves.
Shout out to Jenna Neves.
Yes.
Edit out all the other.
Yes. So shout out to Jenna Neves. I did a Boss Babe brunch. She asked me to be the keynote speaker. And I was like, Jenna, what do you want me to talk about? She was like, just tell us about your journey, right? Like, just, you know, and when people
that
say
like
that,
Jenna.
yes. And you know, when people say that, I'm always like, well, boy, there's so much to talk about. But, you know, I said, what is it that I want to really share with these women? What do I really want to say? And I wanted to talk about the fact that I was able to heal myself after 4 years and to heal myself and triumph in a very authentic way. And that you don't have to move with the crowd and move with the pace that people think your life should be moving at. Take time with yourself, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And this was the year that I finally started talking about it. So it's very, very recent.
All right, Shelly, we like to get practical here on this podcast.
Yes.
Here, right? So with all these tips given, with all this journey that we talk about and everything, we want to know, okay, so we discovered our purpose. We think we have an idea what our purpose is. How do we go from idea to action? How do we follow through in living this purpose like you have done in this past year?
Be so intentional. Be very intentional. And when I say be intentional, I don't mean writing a to-do list every day and checking boxes and being a box checker. I'm not saying that. I mean, have a long-term vision and start thinking about what are the actionable steps I can take to get me there. A lot of times we have this notion of setting short-term goals because we feel that, and again, short-term goals equals short-term gratification. That's the way that I see it. Because as soon as it's ticked off, you're thinking, okay, well, what next?
What if these short-term goals are part of a bigger long-term goal?
Yes, absolutely. And great. And actually, that is what it should be. The short-term and long-term should be something that is mapped out together at the same time, right? So it's about getting the person to not just look at, okay, well, what do I want to achieve in the next year? But no, what do I want my legacy to be? And I say legacy because I ask my clients this a lot of times and a lot of them can't answer. I ask them, what do you want your legacy to be?
It's a heavyweight question.
It's very heavy, but it's purposeful because I'm pushing them to think not short term, but to think years and years and years ahead. And then once you understand that, we can then set some short-term goals, right? But it's about being long-sighted, long-term. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing of going from idea to action is getting a mentor. And I am big on that. Alphastute is exactly why it was launched, was because we in Trinidad lack mentorship. Mentorship programs, shadowments, apprenticeships, hands-on experience, where experts actually take the time pro bono to help people. And that's why I was so happy to be a part of your podcast, because I think that that is part of mentorship in a sense, right? That's
Definitely.
Exchange of knowledge. So the second bit of it is hire a mentor, because a mentor is at the top of the mountain where you would like to be at, sucking his mango, watching you at the bottom, struggling through the forest to try to get up. And he's just looking at you like, okay.
Shelly, but how do we go about getting a mentor though? Because it's not like you could go
Right.
to somebody and say, hey, you want to be my mentor?
Exactly.
I'm like, well, I don't know you, guy.
Right.
So how do you go about getting a mentor, enrolling a mentor?
The easiest way is to book an appointment with Alphastute.
I love it. I love it.
That is actually the easiest way. But for somebody that, you see, because mentorship does not have to be a face-to-face, one-to-one personal relationship, right? Mentorship can also be benchmarking yourself against someone else, role modeling, right? Mimicking, researching person's career trajectories and letting that influence your career path. Those are the things that I try to get my clients to think about, because it's not about finding somebody, shaking a hand and saying, well, can you be my mentor? No, it's about doing the groundwork, so much so that you are then able to put yourself in the right place at the right time to have the conversation with the person without even having to do too much work to get their attention.
Something about these mentorship relationships is that it really should not be one-sided, right? You
Absolutely
should be able
not.
to lend value to
Yes.
this person who's lending value to you. So
Yes.
usually the best mentorships are those where both people benefit, both people learn.
Yes.
So it's like so let's say you mentor me on whatever, and I mentor you on something that I might know. Who knows?
Yes. Yes. And actually, when we take on mentees that add to the value that Alphastute gives, because we believe in the exchange of knowledge. We believe that our biggest asset is human capital, and our mentees are persons that we see have high growth, but the potential for high growth, And it's then fostering that and then hopefully engaging them to become a mentor with us. So we just continuously build a community.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. So we found our purpose.
Yes.
Let's say we're on the way to our purpose.
Right.
We're trying to prepare ourselves.
Yes.
Right. To live this purpose. Right. So that might involve some education, some training, some courses or whatever it is. Right. Mm-hmm. So let's just say on the way to living this purpose we think we have discovered. Mm-hmm. You know, we fail exam here.
Right.
This expert in the field says, nope, this is not for you. So everywhere you look or you're applying for jobs within on that track and people say, nope, no, you're not qualified. So doors are closing on you everywhere you turn.
Right.
What does that say to you? Because you had a blog where you say, hey, this might be the world saying it's not for you, or it might be saying it's for you.
Yes.
So, I mean, that sounds like both.
Yes, exactly.
Both ultimatums.
And and you know, the choice really comes down to the person, right? So, and it's the same thing with mentorship, and it's the same thing with having a career coach. We can guide you, but the ultimate choice is yours. So when doors close, and I'd use myself as the example. When I did what I did in Scotland, graduated with a distinction, had a stellar thesis, it's now published.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's all about Trinidad and Tobago and the technology transfer in the construction industry. I wanted to stay in the UK to teach. I sent out 50 plus applications with the amazing academic merit. And I only got 8 callbacks.
8 out of 50 isn't bad, eh?
8 out of 50 is not bad, but no offers. And, you know, there's this saying that the master has failed much more times than the beginner, right? In order to master your skill and to master your ability and the competence that you possess, you must be ready to fail. Because again, it helps you become a master at the skill that you're at. So when I look at the great entrepreneurs, Bezos, who is the owner of Amazon, Mark Zuckerberg, Eric Ries, who dealt with the lean startup. When you look at YouTube, all of these are things that started off in one way, wasn't successful at it, they failed, and it spun the idea in a different way. Okay, well, I failed at that, so then what can I try now? And they don't change the strategy, they don't change the vision, they change the strategy. So for me, when I realized that I wasn't succeeding, it was not that I wasn't good enough. It was that I was doing something wrong. Either I was applying to the wrong type of jobs, either I was trying to be something that I was not, either that I probably didn't do enough networking. Something I wasn't doing right. But I knew for sure that this is my calling. I realized that, Shelly, you love research. Why are you trying to be a management consultant in PwC and McKinsey and Goldman Sachs? Girl, what is wrong with you? Who tell you that that's for you? And it actually was not, because it was entirely data driven. And I was like, when I looked at all of my success, it came from research. I just published my master's thesis, which is testimony of like, yes, you are good at research. And I was like, you know what? Forget all this consulting, big four stupidness. I go in for a doctorate because I think that I really love research. And Kevin, I sent out my applications and I had 5 offers, 2 of which were from Russell Group universities in London with scholarships attached to it, full scholarships. And I said, okay, great. The doors flung open for me. And it's not that I was doing it. And again, it's not that I wasn't meant for it. It was that I was doing it in the wrong way. And Alphastute now is actually consulting, and it's consulting at an excellent standard as well, which is what these big fours say they do. But now I'm doing it for myself.
Okay, so let's go through quickly on what Alphastute offers, what it does, how do people engage you, and so on.
Right. So Alphastute started in August of 2018. So I came home, right? I came home before August, February. Came home in February, and every time I come home, I love to give back to home. I want to do something for home. I want to either exchange my knowledge with persons or, go into school and talk. I just want to do something for home. So I had a lot of people on social media asking me, well, Shelly, how were you able to get, you just left law. You was just in Scotland. You're now doing your doctorate and you're on scholarship. How did all of this happen? And at the university on Fridays, I would do career advice. And they took me for career advice because of the fact that I was successfully able to transition from law to business. So I had people messaging me, how did you do it all and stuff? And then I said, you know what? I was just going to come home and I'm going to offer it as 150 TT. for an hour with me and I'm going to go through your CV and cover letter intensively, right? So I'm going to do that.
That's pretty cheap.
Very cheap for the credentials that I had at that time as well. So I said, going to do that. So Kevin, I made a little flyer. Shelly-Ann Gajadhar, career advice. I put what I was going to offer. And I said 150 TT.
So when you say flyer, as any person on a notice board in UE?
No, I actually put it on social media. And then I had some of my followers who were in UE. I asked them to disseminate it in their circles as well, UE circles and stuff, right? But that was tough for me because people don't know me as a career advisor or as an entrepreneur to that extent, right? They know me as Shelly-Ann Gajadhar, the state prosecutor. So when I put it out, I just said, Lord, what are people going to think? But I just felt like this was the right thing to do. And when I came home for 2 weeks. I had 42 clients.
Wow.
Yeah, 42. So sometimes in a day, I'm seeing 5 people because I was very tight on time. And during that space of just giving of myself, I realized how desperate people were when it came to their career and wanting to know their purpose and wanting to excel at what they loved. And I left Trinidad feeling so full.
I can imagine.
So full because, I mean, sometimes these are situations and around that time people were being laid off of particular industries. And some of my sessions, people break down in tears because that's the level of empathy that they feel when I sit with them, but also the frustration that they're experiencing. And I said, you know what? This could be a business.
For sure.
So I started to pray on it because I said, Shelly, is this your big, ambitious ego? Or is this God? God, what do you want from me? Because at this stage, I've been asking you to help me with my purpose. This really felt good, but I don't know. Is this the direction I'm supposed to go in? Please tell me, because I'm not sure. And it reached a stage, you ever get afraid of yourself?
No. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I'm very rough on myself.
Yeah.
There are very few things I'm afraid of, namely flying creatures and sliding creatures. But humans, then no, I'm not afraid of any human.
Right. So when I say I became afraid of myself, I realized the influence that I was having on people. I realized how impactful my page was becoming and how people were seeing almost like a light for them, almost like a light of hope for them, you know, the possibility. And I felt this just weighing on me to the point, and I would say this, if you don't walk in your purpose, it will cripple you.
Definitely.
It will cripple you.
1000%. Yeah.
Yes. And what I mean by that is, as I prayed and I prayed and I prayed about it more and more, I started to feel like if I didn't do it, I would suffer because I was going to be doing things that were not aligned with that calling and with that purpose. And I said, well, okay, God, have your way. Let us do it then. So I went ahead, put the money on the table, and decided to launch Alphastute. I got a website up and I started to do a bit of PR about it. And I came back home in August. So last time I was here was in February, came back in August 2018 to officially launch it. And I did a bunch of PR around it. I went on the news shows and stuff because I wanted people to know that this was a company dedicated to Caribbean people. You know, it was dedicated to the dreamers and the hopers and the disruptors and the innovators and the creatives. It was dedicated to the trailblazers. The people that no longer wanted to be confined by what their mother told them they should be or what their friends doing. They wanted to chart their own way. And that's why I call it Alphastute. So alpha is to lead and astute is to have commercial acumen, to be witty, to be sharp-witted. And that's what we do at Alphastute. We create the leaders of tomorrow. You know, that they are informed and equipped with the knowledge and research to lead in whatever they decide to do.
What I respect about you, Shelly, is that whenever something happens, you internalize, you make a decision, and you take action almost quickly and effectively. And you don't take action in a kind of menial way. You say, no, what? No, I'm going to the media. I'm going to do some PR.
Yes.
I'm going to go to London. I'm going to go to Scotland. No, I am moving. I am going.
Yes.
You know, so you really live what you believe your purpose is at that point in time. Also.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to say to the listeners that once you identify the passion or the purpose, as you were saying, right, and you're on that journey, do not be half-assed or cheap with your passion. You have to go all in. You have to. Because, as I said, it will reach a point where it will cripple you.
Okay, so we want to be careful when we say all in. We're not saying leave your job, show your boss the middle finger and jump out.
No.
So when you say all in, how do you mean?
When I say all in, I mean that you should start to align yourself with the things that are needed to fulfill the purpose.
So you're building an ecosystem around yourself, surrounded by your purpose. You surround yourself with the right people. You're reading the right books. You listen to the right podcast, Caribbean Power Lunch, and you go ahead and you execute. Yes, and when you do that,
the inhabitants that can't live in the ecosystem disintegrate.
That's a rough word. Disintegrate. They don't just go away. They disintegrate.
No, they actually disintegrate. Why? Because it becomes difficult for those situations, persons, activities to relate to you anymore.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
So real quick, I want to touch on research. So you keep say that you're excellent in research, and I read that you believe that locally that we're not very efficient at research. So I want to know what you mean by that. And I want to know, how do we get more efficient at research? Because research is a necessary skill for anything. I don't care what you're doing. You need to be efficient at research.
Yes. So I think that one of the things we lack is benchmarking principles. And I always say to my clients, particularly the ones that come in and want to be an entrepreneur, yes, you may have a good idea. The world is filled with great ideas. The ideas that take off are the ones that are very well researched. So being well researched is understanding who's your target market. What do they consist of? What are the demographics of that market? What is their disposable income? Who are your competitors? What is the price point of your competitors? You know, the basis of a successful startup is being able to have not just a good idea, but something that is in demand. And when I say, efficient research and you ask the question about how do we get there? Google is a great start. It's as basic as that. We could start as basic as Google, right? Google searching what it is you need to know in terms of the competitive landscape. But another way is going out into the market. Going on the ground. Surveys, questionnaires are so powerful, right?
Surveys and questionnaires?
Yes. Okay. It is very powerful. Now, it comes down to you understanding, what is going to be your questionnaire guide. What are the questions you're asking and who are you asking it to, right? But the reason why I think that is so powerful is because you're getting information in real time. You have the ability to prompt people if you want more information. And I feel that we're not going out there enough to get the answers, right? We're not putting a prototype in front of somebody and say, what do you think of that? Yeah, prototyping as well. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you have the survey could accompany the prototype. And what did you enjoy about this? But we need to get more hands-on and again, that's why I said, the going all in with the passion. You can't go halfway and think that a little bit of research online is going to help you. No, you need to start to go out there with it and be brave enough to knock on the doors of the leaders who might use your app or might use your service and ask them, what do you think about this?
Okay. So when we're talking about innovation, right? And we're starting an innovative business. So for instance, we had Steve Jobs with the iPad and the iPod and stuff. Now, I'm not sure that he would have gone out and done surveys and questionnaires. No. Mm-hmm. He would have told himself, hey, people need this. Yes. And they don't know that they need it yet. Exactly. Right? So with surveys and questionnaires, so if people come and ask you, hey, what do you think about this idea? Mm-hmm. Would you spend money on this? And they say, yes. Yeah. Then the product is on the shelf and they walk straight past it. It's like, oh, that's a nice product. Okay, cool. Yes. And they walk straight past it. So how reliable really are surveys and questionnaires versus where you actually put the product in front of them and say, hey, use this?
Yes.
Would you pay for this? Pay for this?
Exactly. Now, that's a great question because it comes down to resources, right? A lot of times we say, okay, let's do a prototype. Do you know how much goes into a prototype in the first place? Right? Yeah. Before you even for something as basic as a hairdresser service, if you want to have a salon, get the equipment, it's expensive. So for me, I think before we think about the big things, let's just try to get the basics down, right? Okay. So and the survey, when I tell my clients, think about a survey or a questionnaire, it's not about asking them necessarily about the product, it's understanding this target market. So it's not about the idea yet, because you're not putting the idea before them just yet. You're asking them questions like, do you find it difficult to find a hairdresser in your area? Things that concern them, And then when you see what their pains are, you find a solution for the pain.
Okay.
And then you find a prototype. You see, because there are stages of the innovation phase, right? And it's the idea generation phase that I think we are good at, but we could be so much better at, because it's idea generation and then it's development and then it's development and prototyping. I tend to find that we do development and prototyping, and when nobody wants to accept it, you're forcing it down people's throats. But why you're forcing it down people's throats is because you didn't understand the consumer behavior in the first place. Okay. And it's profiling consumers. So take it back a notch. Hold off on spending any money. Mm-hmm. Wait, and let's really understand this consumer. Where can I find the person that's going to buy your product? Am I going to find them in Rituals coffee shop? Okay, well, let's go there and let's ask them a couple of questions.
That works. Let's talk about education.
Yes.
Versus academics, right? Not everybody is academically inclined as you are.
Yeah.
But does that mean that they're just doomed to fail in life? No. Everybody needs to have a plan B. And let's say we're both in our early 30s, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure for me growing up, right? So I'm going here. For me growing up, one of the most important things to my parents was that report card that you bring home.
Oh, yes.
Right? If that report card has anything less than an A or B plus, or maybe,
Crucified.
Licks. No,
immediately.
Not licks as I'm getting beat. So gosh, no, I'm not going to do that to mommy and daddy. But there'll be a disappointment.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
But nowadays, it's okay if a child is selling slime on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's okay if a child is doing a video game documentary.
Yep.
It's okay if a child has a blog or a podcast with millions of followers or whatever it is. So academics is not necessarily be all end all right now.
No, absolutely no. Yeah.
All right. So how do you advocate for that? Because I see that you had some comments when our students who wrote the secondary school entrance exam, they didn't do as well as previous years.
Yes. So I believe in living by example, particularly if you decide to be the face of the endeavor and the effort, right? So I am the face of Alphastute, and Alphastute advocates excellence, but we don't pre-package our clients either, right? Because you have been pre-packaged since primary school.
You think we've been pre-packaged?
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
And the reason why we've been pre-packaged is because Caribbean culture, our families tell us what we should be studying and who we should be. And to this day, the other day, I went into school and I had a talk with Form 3s who are about to choose their subjects. And the biggest pressure they talked about is their family. That they want to do something else. They want to do the arts and they want to do the humanities, and their family saying no to the sciences. Even up to then, where you finally give them a choice to choose, they still feel helpless because they feel like they can't, right? And I mean, we are in our 30s and we have experienced that, and it continues, right? So one of the things that I've realized is that the more that we push students into academic merit and they continuously fail, is the more that we do ourselves, our educational system, and by extension, the economy, basically a harm. Yeah, an injustice, right? We do that. And why? Because we, again, continuously pre-package them. What we have to understand is that the world of labor and recruitment is changing. The top skill that employers are looking for now in the world is entrepreneurial skills.
That is true.
Entrepreneurial skills. So creativity, critical thinking, analysis, right? Resourcefulness, right?
Can get it done no matter what.
And you know what those things are? Soft skills.
Yeah.
You get those soft skills through apprenticeship, internships, shadowing, right? You don't get it through doing a particular subject. You might get it to an extent, but it comes from experiential learning, right? Not necessarily academic. So what we try to do at Alphastute is kind of disrupt that straight trajectory of, well, I am an engineer and that is all I am meant to be and that is all I can apply for. No, it's about what do you do well? What are the skill sets that you really enjoy? And how can we get you to span industries and sectors with these skills? So we don't look at the merit. The merit is great. We all know that with, high paid jobs, all of the applicants have the merit. You know what gets them the job? The soft skills.
That's right. Shelly, what's next for Alphastute? What's next for you?
Right. So my hope is to finish my doctorate very soon. My doctorate is on innovation management. And I'm looking at higher education and its responsibility of creating an entrepreneurial economy. So once that is finished, I hope to give my full attention to Alphastute. In terms of where I see Alphastute in the next 5-10 years, and basically the legacy of Alphastute is that
generations.
Yes, Alphastute is going to be a company that changes the way that we do business and the way that we prepare our leaders of tomorrow. It's going to be a company that changes. It's a disruptor. It's going to change the game for employment. It's going to change the game for employers, and it's going to really empower entrepreneurs. And I hope that in years to come, it will be a company that is sought out by international players, by government officials, and that we are able to really go into schools and create high impact and high influence, so that if you're not getting the mentorship that you would like to get at home or the support that you'd like to get in school, just come to us and we will take it for there. We are actually going to fill the gap of what the institutions have been lacking.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Where can we find you?
So you can find us on www.alphastute.com. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Our hashtag is @Alphastute. And if you want to book an appointment with us, you can email us, contact@alphastute.com.
Well, I'm going to take my appointment just now.
Yes, go for it. And then you'll have more than one podcast.
They have more than one podcast.
Exactly. You see? Well, you'll have about 5. More than 5.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Shelly. At this point in time, as we're looking to wrap up, I want to give you open platform to say anything you want to say that you feel hasn't been covered yet. Go.
So, Kevin, I would basically like to just say to you and your listeners that continue to dream the big dream. Continue to believe that you are destined for greatness. Be very intentional about what you engage in and about what you give your time to. And finally, don't be afraid to walk alone and to go against the norm. There are so many other people like yourself waiting around the corner, like me.
That is awesome. Podcast world, there you have it. Finding your purpose with Shelly-Ann Gajadhar. Subscribe to Caribbean Power Lunch at caribbeanpowerlunch.com/subscribe. Check us out on Castbox, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And with that, Shelly, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me.
Podcast world, Cabin Studios, we are out.